Welcome to part 5 of the Myriad 5 Playout training course. In this video, we'll be looking at mass changing, user management and customization, some application settings, media settings, some database settings, and finally, we'll take a look at licensing. If you've watched all the previous videos, you will have already seen mass change at least twice. But let's have another quick look at it. Go to Reports, Media Reports. The Media Reports window gives you reports on stuff that's on the media wall, so you can look for songs, links, or anything else on the media wall. And it's used for viewing content, affecting mass changes, mass deletion, mass moving and copying, and also mass exporting. In this case, we want to do mass change. Let's do something simple, like change all the gold songs to be a different color. You can use the tree view on the left-hand side to select, or you can use the advanced search to find the items you wish to change. In this case, I want to take all my gold items, so I'm going to just click on the gold option on the left-hand side under songs. I'm then going to use Control A to select all items, and then click on the mass change. Be careful because it's right next to the mass delete, but don't worry, if you do click on mass delete by mistake, you will be asked to confirm before anything is deleted. Click on the mass change and you get the mass change window. On the mass change window, pretty much every field in Myriad is represented, and each one has a tick box beside it to tell the system that that is the thing you wish to mass change. So for example, if you wanted to add a description to all the items we selected, we could click on description and type in what we wanted to be changed. In this case, I think we want to change all the colors. So I'm going to untick description, and the colors are actually on the other tab. I want to click the colors option, and I don't want to use the default colors. I want to use some custom colors, and I want to set the font color to be black and the background color to be gold. If I'm happy with my selection, click on Start Mass Change. It'll ask you to confirm. You can see in the background there, some of my items have changed. There they are. A big update for Myriad 5.25 introduced a number of changes to the Myriad schedule system, including the introduction of Schedule Plus, which added extra attributes to the scheduling options. So here you can see the mass changer has more fields than in the original video. You now have a primary and a secondary category that you can map songs to, plus we have types, genders and eras, which will only be available if you have Myriad Schedule Plus enabled, and finally we have tags which are available for both Myriad Schedule Standard and Plus users and can be applied en masse using the mass changer. Another big change introduced in the same update was the ability to have separate categorizations for media items per station. So if that option is enabled, which is done in the station database settings, in this section here, each station has its own categories and attributes. So okay, it will then create the individual categories, and the way this manifests in the mass changer is if I go to a section, select and do mass change, I can now choose whether I want to mass change in selected items for this station or for another station. So I can, from within one station, I can mass change items in a different station if I wished. Finally, we've also introduced the media processing tool since the original video was created. Again, select the content you want in the media reports, then click on media processing. You can now choose whether you want to normalize, generate peak files, auto extro, or write audio for metadata to the files. So if I wanted to normalize all of the songs that I had selected in the A list there, I just click on the normalize button and it would go through and do all the normalization on those particular things, which is very handy if you need to apply normalization to a media wall en masse, or if you need to auto extra a media wall en masse. User management allows you to add users to your Myriad Playout system. The users can customize some aspects of Myriad for their likes, and you can control the access they have to the system, including which media items they can edit, as well as what menu options they have available, and whether they can do certain things in the log or to the system. If you've just installed Myriad, or if your Myriad system just seems to work every time you start it, you may think you don't have any users set up. But the most likely scenario is that Myriad automatically created a user when it was first installed. When Myriad is first installed, it creates a user with the same username as the Windows login. By default, this user will automatically log in, which is why Myriad will start automatically and you don't have to log in. However, you can turn this feature off, and we'll see how to do that in a second. The first thing we need to look at is how to log in and out of Myriad. To do that, click on the View menu. You can also see here the name of the person logged in. If you want to log out, click on the Log Out option. You'll get a warning telling you that players will keep running even if you log out. You can say yes. And here we have the login screen. You have to log back in by putting in your username and your password. Oh, we're back into Myriad. If you do the same thing while audio is playing, say the log is running, you'll see when you log out, the audio continues playing, and you can even see a preview of the dashboard while you're waiting to log back in. And then we are back into Myriad. Now let's look at how we can add a user to the system or edit the settings for an existing user. Let's start off by adding a user. Click on the Settings menu, User Management, and Edit Contacts and Users. In here is where you access all of the current users on the system. Here you can see a few that we've added previously. Let's say we wanted to add a new user to the system. Click on the New button. This brings up the user contact card. Here you can put in the general details, such as their name, and any other information you want to store. On the Login tab, you choose whether this user should be able to log into Myriad Playout, and if so, give them a username. Also, you can leave the password blank, or you can set a password. In the Account Options section, you can disable the account, allow the contact to change their own password, force the contact to change their own password, allow the user to log into Myriad Playout automatically if the same username is being used to log into Windows. And finally, you can indicate whether this is a software account used by one of our other applications. Any user account that will be used by a user shouldn't have this option ticked. You can also set an end date after which the user cannot log in and see when the last time this user was logged in. Moving on to the security settings. In here, you set what type of security permissions this user will have. There are two different ways you could do this. We have a thing called security groups, which allow you to preset security permissions for members of that group. So on this system here, currently, we have two security groups set up, administrators and presenters. Administrators have access to everything on the system, whereas presenters only have access to certain aspects of the system. As Sarah is a presenter, let's choose presenter. Alternatively, I could actually click on Use Specific Permissions, which allows me to customize the permissions for this user specifically, but we'll come on to that in a few seconds. For now, let's leave Sarah in the presenters group. Finally, you can set a personal media range for this user and allow the users to edit content within this range. This is a good idea to set for each user, as it allows them a range of media items on the media wall that is set aside just for them. And whenever they record content, it will automatically be added to that personal range. However, you can also prevent other people from editing that range should you wish. I'm going to set Sarah's range from 4,200 to 4,300, giving her 100 media items to edit. Finally, we could add some notes if we wished. Click on Save, and Sarah is now added to our contacts. While we're here, let's have a quick look at an existing contact. If I click on my name, you can see here are my contact details. And in my case, I am part of the administrator group, but I'm actually using permissions, specific permissions rather than the permissions from the group. So let's have a look at what these permissions are. Click here to edit the permissions. On the General Permissions tab, we have permissions that relate to the general application. The first section allows us to choose whether the user should be able to edit the settings menu, open and close the station that Myriad is using, and also whether they can access Myriad remotely using RVT or Myriad Anywhere. The Directory Permissions section allows you to set the directory permissions. And for clarity, the directory is the user management database. So at the moment, I can edit the user's directory settings. I can also create users, delete users, and view their history. For average users, of course, you do not want this option selected, as there's no point setting permissions to restrict access if the user can simply turn their access back on. Favorites permissions allows me to say whether I should be able to edit my personal favorites, which should be set for all users, or the shared favorites, which can be set for any users you want to be able to edit the shared favorites. Finally, we can see whether this user is able to run playlog reports and copyright reports. Moving on to media wall permissions. We've got some simple media wall permissions at the top here. So whether I can edit the personal jump buttons, which I should be able to do for all users. The shared buttons, which is obviously optional, as is the local jump buttons. Can also restrict whether or not they can import media packs, which are packs of content that we sometimes publish on our website. And finally, whether they can publish items to Mixcloud. So you should only tick this option for users who you trust to be able to upload content to your Mixcloud account. One of the key things in Myriad is the ability to restrict access to editing some areas of the media wall. So we can see currently I can edit from 1 to this very high number here. So pretty much everything on the media wall. But let's say I didn't want to be able to edit everything on the media wall. Instead, I wanted to restrict the areas I can edit to only a few things. Well, first thing I'd need to do is remove this range here. I can add in a new range. So let's say I'm allowed to edit everything from 1 to 1,000. And also, I'm allowed to edit everything from 3,000 to 5,000. And finally, everything above 10,000 to the end of the media wall. So now I can edit those 3 ranges only. So if a media item is at 1,200, for example, I would not be able to edit, delete, or record into that media item. Finally, we have the Station Permissions tab, and in here you have permissions relating to the station and the log. So you can choose whether the user should be able to edit the Myriad database settings, the station attributes, can edit the schedule and clock, i.e. have access to Myriad schedule, and also edit the media item schedule options such as hour restrictions, etc. This is important as you don't want presenters to be able to remove songs from your schedule. Also, can they mass edit the log, i.e. import hours into the log or even export hours into the log? Can add, edit, or remove individual log items. If you don't tick this option, then the presenter will not be able to edit the log at all. Can lock or unlock individual schedule log items. So if you've locked something in Myriad Schedule in the clock, can the user opt to unlock it if they need to? Can edit the on-air hour from anywhere. This allows the presenter to edit the on-air hour even if the workstation they're on isn't the on-air workstation. Finally, can they record voice links into the schedule log, which will need to be turned on for most presenters. The last two options allow you to manually update the now playing information, which will be sent to OCP and the BR encoder. And finally, whether they can start and stop the broadcast radio encoder, which is used for web stations. So that's the permissions currently on my system. If I want to save my settings, click on Save. I'm not going to this stage because I don't really want to lose access to all of the items on the media wall. So that's how you add a new user and edit the settings for an existing user. So let's try logging in as Sarah and seeing how Myriad Playout looks with that lower permissions. I'm going to log out, log in as Sarah, and here we can see Myriad Playout looks very similar. However, we have some options missing. First, let's look at the menus. As you can see, the only option on the file menu is log out. Everything else is grayed out. The view menu remains the same, as does the layout and scripts. However, reporting doesn't allow us to do much. And if we look in station or settings, we can see that many of the options are grayed out because we don't have permission to access them. Now let's look at the media wall. Currently, Sarah is part of the presenter user group, which only has permissions to edit between 4,000 and 5,000 on the media wall. So as I highlight items that are not in that range, such as media item number 7, we can see that the edit option on the ribbon is now grayed out. And if we use the right-click menu, we can see that anything that is destructive or anything that would edit this media item is grayed out and cannot be done. Equally, we do not have permission to publish this item. We can copy this because we can copy it to a range we can edit, and therefore we can edit the copy, but we cannot edit the original. Now let's go to area 4000, which is an area where Sarah can edit. You can see that edit has now come back and our full right-click menu is restored.
Since recording the original video, we've upgraded the user security system to now include the ability to restrict user access to the log by hour. So you can actually restrict the user's access for editing, voice tracking or live control to only be the hours you want them to be able to access it. You can also do it on a per station basis. So if you're running multiple stations, users can only have access to the station that you want them to and the hours of the log that you want them to. So let's take a look at how that works. Click on the user you want to edit, click on security sections, and you'll see that there is a new section at the bottom of the security settings tab. And you can see here I've got authorization on the Hot FM station to go from 8 in the morning to 11 in the morning, Monday through to Friday, and on a Saturday I'm able to access Hot Gold on Saturday and Sunday from 4 till 7. So let's see how we added those in. To add a new permission, click on the add another allowed hour, and then when you click on that it opens up. First of all, you have to choose which station you want to enable it on. So let's say I was going to add something onto the Hot Gold station. You can then simply select the hours from this selection grid here that you want to allow. So let's say we wanted to enable me to be able to access the log during the breakfast show Monday through to Friday, and the breakfast show say runs from 8 till 10. So you can see now I have access to the log for editing purposes from 8 to 10 Monday to Friday, and on a Saturday and Sunday from 4 till 7 in the evening. Hit OK. You can see that's now been added into the list here. Remember to hit save, And now the restrictions apply. So if I was to try and edit the log outside of those hours when I'm logged into Myriad, or if I was to try and use either RVT or Myriad Anywhere to remotely edit the log, add voice tracks, or in a case of Anywhere Pro, take full live control, if I do not have the access rights for the hour I am trying to edit, I just simply will not be able to. So you can set this up for any users that you wish, and it just gives you that peace of mind that they can only actually edit the hours that you want them to.
So how did we set up this presenter user group? In order to do that, we'll need to log in as a user that has permission to actually edit the directory. So we're going to log out from Sarah, log back in with an account that has enough access. Now we can go to the Settings menu, User Management, and Directory Settings. Here you can see we've got a few options. Automatically add users to the directory on first use, allow blank passwords. So you can choose those options if you wish to. Those apply to across the entire database. Then we have the security groups down here. You can see we've got an administrator group and a presenter group. If we double click on the presenter group, we can see here are the permissions, which we looked at a few minutes ago on the individual user. And we can see that in this presenter group, on the general permissions, the only option they have is to be able to edit the personal favorites. On the media wall, the only option is to edit the personal jumps. And crucially, here is the range that this user or the members of this group can use to edit. Finally, on the station permissions, they have quite a few options for log editing. This is normal because we want people to be able to edit the log. And finally, we can also allow them to voice track. Incidentally, if a user is allowed to voice track, then the voice tracking range is automatically available for editing and recording for them. So you don't have to give them specific permissions for the voice tracking range. If you want to add a new user group, you can click on the Create New Security Group, give it a name, and then you can edit the permissions for that group. And if you want to delete it, highlight it and delete it. You can also rename them using the rename option. So that's security groups as well. Another aspect of users is customization. Some customize options are passive in that Myriad automatically remembers them per user. So for example, on this layout here, if I were to change the amount of columns or rows within my media wall, Myriad Playout will remember that on this layout, the default layout, this user prefers to have 4 columns and 5 rows. The same is true for options such as the way the coloring works or whether or not pictures should be displayed. Some options are actually things that you set in the Customize menu. So let's have a look at that now. Go to View and then Customize Personal Preferences. So in here, we've got a few options. The first thing is the personal range home or starting point. And this should be set to be the same as the personal range for the user. This is the media item number that Myriad will jump to when you click on the home button. The next personalization option allows you to move or copy items via drag and drop on the media wall. Next, you can ask whether after importing items, the original file should be deleted. The next set of options relates to when you open the edit window. The first one, full load the media ready for editing, is the default option, which means that when you open the edit window, the media will be loaded in its full entirety so you can start editing. If you untick this option, a preview of the media waveform will be loaded, but you cannot edit this unless you click on the full edit mode option. You can also set focus to the media straight away. This is useful because if you then press the spacebar, it will start playback straight away. With this option not set, the focus will be in the title field. So if you hit spacebar, it will blank the title and put a space in instead. Display layout and preferences. This allows you to, the first option here, auto-select main window tabs from dragging items over them. This is the option that allows you to pick up an item on the media wall and drag it into the favorites tab to switch to that tab. You can disable that option in the customize if you wish. Finally, on this page, we have use large fonts. If we tick this option, Myriad will increase the font size on both media items and the log. In the playback and recording, we have a number of options. You can choose whether to automatically start playing whenever you preview an item. You can choose whether the media player should have transport controls visible all the time. You can choose whether you have to pause an item before you can eject it from the players. You can choose whether to display the VU bars, the volume control, the pictures, and the waveforms within the media players. You can also adjust the threshold, which is used when recording. Currently, it's set to 10%, which means when you press the record button, it doesn't actually start recording until the volume of your recording reaches 10% or higher. This allows you to not record silence until you turn the microphone on. You can also disable trigger level recording altogether if you wish. You can also disable the VU bars, whether to show the title, and whether to display the waveform on the recorder as well, should you wish. The final two aspects of user management that we need to discuss are the two reports available on the Reports menu. Go to User Reports, and you can either view a summary of all the users on your system, or you can go to User Reports, User History, which allows you to access a summary of all of the activities users have undertaken. Let's have a quick look. You can choose which areas of Myriad Playout and its associated products you're interested in, which events, date and time range, users, locations, and whether things succeed or fail. If we leave everything empty and hit OK, we'll get a full list of all activity that has been undertaken on this date range. Application settings are a series of settings that relate to the application, i.e. the installed application on the workstation you are currently working on. So settings in here refer to the machine that you're working on, not to the database as a whole. So in general, all the settings in application settings are only local settings. To access application settings, click on the Settings menu and choose Application Settings. On the Data Locations tab, you can set the location for the SQL server that you are using, as well as the location of the data files that you are using. This needs to be set the same on all Myriad workstations. So in this case, we're looking at the D drive on this computer for our file locations. If we had a different Myriad system on the same network, it would have to go to the network share of the same drive. You can also specify media ranges to be in different file locations should you wish, using the lower part of this screen. In the Options tab, you can choose whether to be in single station mode, which will be the default for almost all installations, or multi-station mode, which can be used for automation machines that are servicing more than one output simultaneously. The lower half of the section has a series of different options which allow you to change the way that Myriad runs. So you can choose which database the system will load by default. You can choose how many screens you have and on which screen the Myriad should put the menus, i.e. the primary screen. You can choose whether Myriad should be able to be closed if a user is logged in. You can set whether or not to store Go events in the user history. If you do that, it will take up a lot of space in user history very quickly. You can choose whether Myriad should try and download information from Twitter on the Smart Info panel, and also whether to use legacy keyboards. The Media Editor tab allows you to set up an external media editor. So you may decide to put Adobe Audition or something else onto your system, and then you can set this to be accessible from the edit window in Myriad. We also have some enhanced capabilities when working with Hindenburg, which you can switch on in here, and you can change the temporary location Myriad uses for recording content. On the Media Engine tab, you can choose whether to run the Media Engine locally or whether to use the Media Engine host. Now, the Media Engine host takes the media players out of the core product or core application and runs as a separate executable. This is useful if you want to run the Media Engine on a different PC to the UI or the Playout interface. If you do select this option, you also need to put in the address, IP address, or name of the computer running the Media Engine host. The On-Air Control tab allows you to change on-air control. In most cases, you want to leave it as Use Myriad Database to keep track of on-air. This enables the on-air, off-air button in the top right corner of the primary Myriad screen. You can also opt to take control automatically on any workstation that actually goes live, i.e. into live or auto fade mode. If a machine is always on air or never on air, you can set those settings as well. The remote connections is to do with some of the more advanced tools that we have available, such as the Myriad Remote and also some of the web accessible applications. So you really only need to change these if you're asked to do so by our support team. However, at the top here, we have enable support for the K series keyboard. So if you've purchased a K600 or K300 keyboard, then you just need to enable this option here and select the options that you want. We also support a series of different mixers directly. So we have the Broadcast Radio SRM 1 and 2, the AQ Capital and Forums, the DNR Airline Web Station, the DNR Airance, and the Livewire driver. Enabling one of these will open some options to give Myriad greater interaction with that mixing desk. Finally, on the Advanced tab, you can manage your profiles. Profiles are used for having different sets of configuration for Myriad Playout. So, for example, you could have one profile that points to your primary server and a second profile that points to a secondary server, and then you can switch between them if your primary server is not available. The advanced options will generally only be used if you are directed to do so by our support team. They include the Diagnostic Mode, which allows us to connect additional information about your Myriad system and trying to track down any issues or help you with any problems. The Media Engine Settings options allow you to change various settings that relate to the audio engine within the system. These are generally local as well as application settings. So we go to Settings and we go to Media Engine Settings. On the Media Players tab, the first thing we can do is set how many players we want to have available within this application. The next thing allows us to choose whether we want to manually or automatically select the output devices each player will use. If you choose automatically assign, the system will do its best to work out which media device should be allocated to each player. When in manual mode, you can set the caption for each media player. You can choose the device that each media player will use, the color of each media player, the text color of each media player, and whether or not it should be visible or not to the users. You can also set whether the media players should be set to be Broadcast Radio SRM colors. Finally, on the media devices, you can set the output devices for specific options in Myriad Playout, including the Edit Audio device, the Segue Edit Audio device, the Segue Edit Recording device, and General Recording. On the Playback Settings tab, you can set which media item type should use which players. So in the first row here, we can see the media wall items are going from player 1 to the last player, whatever number that is, but the favorites are going from player 1 to player 4. So if I wanted my favorites to only ever play out of media players 3 and 4, I could change that to be 3 and 4, and that would work. On the record edit settings, we've just got a couple of simple options on here. The first one allows us to allow users to choose a different format. It is recommended that all your audio is recorded in the same media format, so the recommended option is to leave it as a global media format for all new media. You can also choose whether media should be recorded directly to the media wall or recorded to a local file, then transferred to the media wall. You should only need to change this option if you are having problems with your network. Finally, on the Advanced tab, you can change the audio buffer size, set debug logging levels for media-related debugging logs. Database settings are stored in a central database, so therefore changing these settings will generally apply to all Myriad-enabled PCs within your radio station. To access the settings, go to the Settings menu, Database Settings, and then Database Settings again. On the General tab, we have a few key things on here. There are way too many things to go through individually, so instead we'll just pick out the highlights. Okay, first option is the amount of media items on your media wall. You can unlock this and change the number as required. You can also change the format of the media wall as well. So currently the system is set to convert all imported audio to a specific format, in this case, WAV files. You can also choose whether or not to set extras automatically, whether to enable preview waveforms, and also to allow items to be scheduled automatically as they're being imported. There are a few useful options in here for deleting as well. You can choose whether or not deleted items will be deleted permanently or moved to the recycling folder. You can set the default format for exported files. And you can also set the ducking levels when playing sweepers. Moving on to the media ranges, here is where we set the ranges for different media types on the media wall. We've covered this before, but basically you can say for each media type, you can say the range of a range of media items, the item type, whether it should be swept, the background and foreground color, a normalization type as well. And you can also remove media ranges if need be. The Stations tab allows you to access to settings per station. A station would be an individual Playout brand within your overall Myriad system. So if you had a FM and an AM, or maybe a primary and a gold service, each one would be their own station. We're going to come back to station settings in just a second. We're just going to look at the rest of the tabs on this window. Then we'll go into the station settings and have a look as well. Locations allow you to add workstation locations to different workstations on your Myriad network system. So here we can see we've got a few workstations. We've got the network name, software type, and whether they can do log transfer. Now this is important because one of the more recent things we've introduced is the smart transfer, which allows you to easily switch from, say, a Studio One to Studio 2 or Studio One to an automation PC. And we want to exclude any PCs that are admin PCs or PCs that won't want to be available for that smart transfer. So we only need to tick the workstations in here that we want to be able to transfer the log to. Notification section allows you to customize some notifications. This is beyond the scope of this video, but you can set in all sorts of different criteria in here and then get Myriad to notify you should that criteria be met. In an advanced section, we're mainly concerned with the way that Myriad interacts with the real world. So whether or not you want Myriad to download images in the Smart Info tile, how accurate the searches should be inside Smart Info. The more accurate this is, the more likely it is it won't find a result. The less accurate it is, the more likely the result may be wrong, so you can fine-tune that. You can also fine-tune the websites. We go for some things inside Myriad, as well as looking at some of the internet services that we interact with. Let's go back to stations. Usually, if you have more than one station, they'd all be listed in here. We've only got one on this system, Hot FM, so let's go in and take a look. The first tab, Item Types, allows you to say for each item type in the system what the background color in the log should be and what the foreground color in the log should be. So we can see songs are pink with black text, but our starts are blue with white text. We can also set some of these items to be either auto-fadeable, OCP current, or OCP next. So auto-fadeable means that Myriad will have the ability to fade these early should it need to when it's running to time. Generally, that would only be songs. You can also say whether or not Myriad should send the information about these items to OCP. So usually songs would be now and next. And in this example, both media, items, and advert breaks can also be sent to OCP current, which means as they're playing, the information will be updated in OCP. Scheduled log tab allows you to change quite a few things. There's a lot of options in here, so we're just going to call out the highlights. You can change the icon used for the advert breaks in your system. And you can also change how many items would be displayed in the dashboard. You can set how the dashboard queues the next item, whether it should queue the next item to play as soon as the current item starts, or whether it should wait until X seconds, maybe 30 seconds before the end of the current item before it starts the next item. You can change how rapidly Myriad will fade out items when you press the go button. That will affect how tight the station will sound. And you can also change the way that sweepers will interact. So they can either play at the end of the intro, the start of the intro, dry, or randomly. If we move on to the auto fade tab, here we've got some settings to do with the way Myriad will auto fade items when it's running to time. There are several options in here, and it's best to just read through the options and work out which one will work best for your station. Segue Editor and Auto Hook tab allow us to set whether or not, when we're putting voice links in by the Segue Editor, whether they should be normalized to the normal level for the media range for voice links. Also, whether or not voice links should be scheduled to be deleted X many days after they've been played. You can also precede the auto hook settings so that you can put your generic station in and out and production items into it so that you don't have to add them every single time you add an auto hook to the system. The Scheduler tab we've covered a little bit in some of the other videos. The first thing is what to do with Myriad scheduling, whether or not to only have it schedule the log as it runs out, whether it should schedule the next hour ahead, the next day ahead, or 7 days ahead. You can also set the default station rules in here. So you can set the default station rules that dictate how long will go between songs being repeated, artists being repeated, or links being repeated. You can also set up some basic rules in here, which will be what will be used when you look at an item information and compare it to when it's been scheduled. Therefore, is it available to be played right now? The log import tab is only used if you're using third-party software for music scheduling or advert scheduling. If you are, you can say where the log files will be for either one of those and the format that the log file will be in. The Connections tab allows you to connect Myriad Playout to other software within the Myriad family. So the first bit is station connections. So if we click on the plus here, we can see we can set up a station connection. And this is for an encoder. So this is for one of the broadcast radio encoders. So if you had a web station or if you were running an internet radio station and you're using broadcast radio encoder software to encode that, you can tell Myriad where that encoder is by giving the IP address, give it a unique reference. You need to give a unique reference for each service you're running, and also set some settings about whether or not the connection is enabled, whether it should send no playing information, and allow Myriad to start and stop the encoding. Once that's done, then Myriad does have a broadcast radio encoder tile now, which can be incorporated into some layouts to allow you to start and stop the encoding, but also Myriad player will pass on no playing information directly to broadcast radio encoder, avoiding the need for OCP for something as simple as just now playing information. Talking of OCP, if you are using OCP, here is where you would enable it, and you'd say where the OCP software is running and which OCP port it should connect on. If you're running Myriad Network SE, same thing. You can say enable Network SE, set the IP address and the port for connecting, and a few settings about how it will work. Finally, when we are dealing with either OCP or even encoder, this section here allows us to set how many items we should send across either just one or two items and how many hours ahead we should check. The Location and Smart Info tab allows us to set the geographic location for our system. You need to put in the longitude and latitude, but easiest way of doing it is just click on Find Location. It will then the system will then deduce where you are, and it will use that for basing the information about your weather and your traffic and travel inside of Smart Info. If you are using a different weather source, then if you're using Met Office rather, you can choose your location down here. If you're using traffic and travel, you can choose either one of these regions or generic traffic and travel RSS feed. And if you're in the Greater London area, then you can also include Transport for London, train and tube alerts as well. Finally, the Notifications tab allows you to set notifications in the same way you could in the previous section, but these will be different for each station, because obviously there's no point saying a log has stopped if you can't tell which log it is. For more information on database settings, it's worth consulting the written documentation or getting in touch with our support team if you're unsure as to what any of these settings do or how they may relate to your station. Just going to quickly run through how you would license Myriad 5 Playout. When you first run Myriad 5 Playout and you don't have a license installed, you get this screen here, which allows you to either continue as evaluation or install a license. If you choose continue evaluation, you get 4 days of completely open access to the system, followed by 30 more days of access to the system in 30-minute chunks. If, however, you already have purchased a license, then you can proceed straight away to install a license. You'll be sent a license key. It's a long number, so best to copy that and then paste it in. Hit install. System will connect to our licensing servers and issue your license. That's it. Your system is now fully licensed. Myriad 5 continues to license in the background quietly, so you shouldn't have to add a new license again as an ongoing thing like you used to with version 4. Once you've licensed the Myriad 5, that should be it. You should be good to go forever. We've covered a lot of ground in this video, so let's have a quick review. We started off looking at how mass changing can be used to change multiple media items at the same time. We took a look at how to add users, add security to users, and allow users to customize the system. The application settings are used to set local settings per PC. Media settings are used to set the audio devices that Myriad use. And finally, database settings are used for station-wide settings such as how Myriad runs. The last thing we looked at was licensing. That's it for this video, and in fact for the entire training course. We hope you found it useful. There are loads more resources on our website, on our YouTube channel, and in our Help Desk Center. Check out www.broadcastradio.com for more information.